So the ECB, coming out of Bloomberg, the ECB may repeat Japan's mistake that triggered this lost decade in Japan. It's been more than a decade. It's been 15 years of stagnation because the ECB, Bloomberg is claiming that the ECB is totally ignoring the deflation concerns. And I'm trying to figure out as I'm reading this is why why Bloomberg is not saying the same thing about the Fed and about America. Well, we're not really having deflation. We haven't met the Fed's 2% inflation goal now since I don't know when. We see another budget where the president, you heard the clip earlier, the president talking about creating jobs. Do you know how many times since the very first State of the Union speech, he's been talking about his jobs initiative and it hasn't happened yet? I'm hearing conservative commentators, like I just heard yesterday, one that I was very disappointed in, saying, well, the president's created a lot of jobs. Are you out of your mind? I'm not saying there hasn't been jobs created, but it doesn't matter. It's like I know a church that is constantly talking about the growth in the church. It's a church near me. And they're constantly talking, and they all they talk about is their growth. Now, we know that's an important thing for churches. It isn't important, but, that's what they care about, numbers. Yet they still have 2 services. They've never added any chairs to the sanctuary. They've never built any additions in 10 years. Yet they talk about growth. It's because they're seeing new faces. The problem is there are people going out the back door, new people coming in the front door. So it's the same thing. We're adding new jobs. What new jobs? Yeah, we're adding new jobs, but we got people that are losing jobs every day. So I don't care if you add 20 million jobs. If you lose 21 million, it's irrelevant. If we lose 20 million out of the labor participation rate, it's irrelevant how many jobs you think you're adding because you're not doing a thing for the economy and you're not doing anything for the revenue stream to the government. All the while, you continue your spending as if you had more revenue coming in. Does it take a PhD in economics to figure out this is not a good way to proceed year over year over year? Maybe it does. Well, obviously it does. And it all goes back. I wrote an article this week. You'll find it on christianpress.com, or you can get my newsletter at financialissues.org. Go and sign up. It's an email newsletter, comes out every Friday. But I wrote an article on the leadership vacuum, the true deficit in this country. And I heard somebody this morning talking about dysfunction in Washington being the problem. Dysfunction is not the problem. I've been saying that for I don't know how long. I talk about the dysfunction in Washington, but the problem is not dysfunction, is the effect that we have in Washington from the cause. And nobody's talking about the cause because that's what we're good at. We don't ever talk about the cause of anything. We don't talk about the cause of the stagnant economy. We only talk about the effect of it. We do that all the time about everything. And we're doing that about Washington. I'm not, but I do say, we have this dysfunction in Washington. That's the effect. The cause is a lack of leadership, of no leadership, of politicizing every little thing without even thinking for a moment how it's impacting the American people, the American economy, or the prosperity of this nation, or the strength of this nation. We don't think about that. Why? Because we have no leadership. So the effect of no leadership for so many years, and believe me, you all know this, I'm talking about Republicans and Democrats alike, the void is equal. The effect of that is this utter dysfunction that we have in Washington. And it sure would be nice to see some of the pundits continue to talk about the vacuum in leadership causing this dysfunction. And when we in particular have a totally incompetent, economically incompetent Congress and administration. And there's people in Washington that cringe when you can't generalize like that. Oh, really? Okay. So what is there? 40 out of the 525, there's 40 that might have some sort of economic. I know there's a whole lot of legislators that believe they're competent. I'm not talking about believing you're competent. Because you can rattle off the talking points. That doesn't make you competent. That just makes you good at rattling off the talking points. But if we had any competency and leadership, the combination of the two, we wouldn't be in this mess.